I'm R. Sucharita from the Department of English, Government Degree College, Khairatabad, Hyderabad. A warm welcome to the students of BA, BSc, BCom second year. Today I'm going to present the poem Punishment in Kindergarten Part 2. So, yesterday we have seen, that is in the previous video, we have seen that is the introduction about the author. So the author is here, we can see in the slide, that is Kamala Das. So Punishment in Kindergarten is written by Kamala Das, and this Kamala Das, she was born in Malabar region in Kerala, and she shot into popularity with her confessional mode of poetry, hitherto considered the domain of Western poets like Sylvia Plath. And she has written candidly. Candidly means it is openly or very frankly. And she made forays, that is, the attempts into the emotional lives of women. And we have seen that the old playhouse and other poems brought her a wide recognition. And then she received a great applause for my story and her experiments. And then she has published many short stories and novels in Malayalam under the pen name called Madhavi Kutti. And Kamala Das, she writes about intensely her personal experiences. Mostly they are drawn out from her personal life, including her growth into womanhood. So, Punishment in Kindergarten is also one such poem that dramatizes the trauma. Trauma is an emotional wound leading to psychological injury that she has undergone in school. So, in the poem Punishment in Kindergarten, Kamala Das memorizes a childhood experience that was quite painful for her. She was scolded by her teacher for being alone, and her schoolmates also laughed at her, that made her weep. So they started crying, or they started weeping. So the poem has been divided into three parts. In the first part, the poet discusses how her teacher scolded her. In the second part, she memorizes her schoolmates laughing at her, making her weep. And in the final part, she says that being an adult, there is no need for her to memorize this experience. So we'll see the first stanza. Today the world is a little more my own. No need to remember the pain. A blue-frocked woman caused, throwing words at me like pots and pans to drain. That honey-colored day of peace, why don't you join the others? What a peculiar child you are. So today the world is a little more my own. So these words are spoken by Kamala Das, the poet itself. So when compared to that kindergarten world when I was tender in my age, so she says that I was very sensitive, but today the world, it is a little more of my own. No need to remember the pain of those days, that is the kindergarten days. Now I have grown into adulthood. So a blue-frocked woman caused throwing words at me like pots and pans. So here you can see the blue frocked woman. This blue frocked woman is the teacher of Kamala Das. She speaks here. A blue frocked woman caused throwing words at me like pots and pans to drain. So she was throwing, her words were compared to pots and pans. That means she was scolding. She was scolding Kamala Das with her words. And this sensitive child of tender age, Kamala Das, she was deeply hurt and she felt as though her energy was drained. She was deeply hurt in her heart. And she says that honey colored day of peace. So it is a picnic day and it should be a day of peace. So we can see here. So this is the picnic day. That honey colored day of peace. So they have gone on a picnic to those Victoria Gardens in Calcutta. So that day it should be full of mirth, that is happiness. And it should be full of gladness and amusement. And she must enjoy herself completely in laughing that honey colored day of peace. But right at that time, she was scolded by the teacher. And the teacher, she spoke, "Why don't you join the others? What a peculiar child you are. So, why don't you join yourself with your classmates or with your friends? Why are you alone? What a peculiar child you are. What an unusual, odd, or strange, or abnormal child you are." So, these were the words that hurt Kamala Das. The little child, when she was of tender age, she was deeply hurt by these words like pots and pans to her. So her mood was completely off, and she sat alone like this. So she was very sensitive and of a very tender age. So the poet begins with the line, "Today the world is a little more my own." That makes it clear that she is going to talk about a past event which was not pleasant for her. That day wasn't pleasant. Then she begins by narrating the day in her childhood, that is in kindergarten, when she went to a picnic along with other students. So here the poet uses symbols like blue frocked woman for her teacher, then throwing words at me like pots and pans. So the symbols are blue frocked woman, and then the words like pots and pans to make us feel the intensity of the teacher's words. The honey colored for the day, which was ruined by the harsh words of her teacher, while the other students, they are happily enjoying, they are merrymaking, and they are playing together. They are in a great joy, they are in mirth, they are in gladness, and they are very happy. But Kamala Das, she was sitting alone, that which was not liked by her blue frocked teacher. And this teacher, she scolded her by calling her a peculiar child, where Kamala Das, the tender child, was deeply hurt. So the poet narrates the day, which was quite pleasant and ultimately ruined completely by the teacher. The words which she threw on the little tender child. So these are about the first stanza. Now we are going to the second stanza. On the lawn, in clusters, sat my schoolmates sipping sugar cane. They turned and laughed. Children are funny things. They laugh in mirth at others' tears. I buried my face in the sun warmed heads and smelled the flowers and the pain. So, on the lawn in clusters sat my schoolmates sipping sugar cane. So, all the friends or classmates of Kamala Das, they sat on the lawn. So, in the slide we can see the lawn, and all her friends, they were sitting in clusters. That means in group they are sitting. A group of people, we can say. They appeared closely together. They are close together. They are not sitting alone. And on the lawn, they are sitting in clusters. Sat my schoolmates sipping sugar cane, and they are nicely enjoying with sipping sugar cane juice. And they, as soon as the teacher started scolding me, and when she was scolding me, these children, they turned and laughed towards me. They laughed in mirth at others' tears. Turned and laughed, sorry. So children are funny things. So after reaching the state of adulthood, now Kamala Das, as an grown up adult in a state of maturity, she says that children are funny things. They are innocent children. They do not know. They laugh in mirth at others' tears. So when a child is crying, or when a child is insulted in the class, so naturally these children, as they are innocent and they are funny things, as they do not know, they start laughing. So that is what is expressed by Kamala Das here. And when her classmates started laughing, what did she do as a little child? So she says that in tears I buried my face. In tears I was weeping and I was crying uh, to the angriness of the teacher, and I buried my face in the sun warmed heads. So this is the heads we can see, or this is the heads. So in mirth at others' tears, I buried my face in the sun warmed heads. So I told you the meaning of heads. It is a fence or boundary formed by bushes. So we, in the slide we can see the beautiful heads with flowers. So she felt very insulted and she felt very ashamed, Kamala Das. And what did she do? She buried her face in these heads and she smelled the flowers and the pain which she is undergoing. She started to hide herself in the sun warm heads. So, in the second part of this poem, the poet says, when the teacher scolded her, other students who were sipping sugarcane started laughing at her. So, when others were laughing, that is her own classmates, her own friends, when they were laughing, as a sensitive child, she felt very bad. The children, according to Kamla, are funny creatures. Now, as she has grown into an adulthood, as a matured adult, she speaks that children are funny creatures. They laugh at others' pains, and they did the same when she scolded without realizing how much she was hurt. Being hurt, she hid her face in the sun warmed heads. So we can see the beautiful heads here. And what did she do after hiding her face in the sun warmed heads? She smelled the flowers and the pain. So the poet, what does she do? She associates flowers with pain. I think she has tried to compare her childhood with the flower, which is quite delicate. Flowers are quite delicate. So, hence, she probably wants to convey that this event shook her innocent childhood. So, children, they are compared to the tender flowers, and some children, they are very, very sensitive. So when a teacher, when she behaves harshly with that sensitive children, they go deep down in their heart and they feel a lot. They feel insulted and they feel very ashamed when they are insulted before their friends or in front of their classmates. So the same thing happened with Kamala Das. Now we'll see the next stanza. The words are muffled now, the laughing faces only a blur. The ears, the words are muffled now, the laughing faces only a blur. The years have sped along, stopping briefly at beloved halls and moving sadly on. My mind has found an adult peace. No need to remember that picnic day when I lay hidden by a hedge, watching the steel white sun standing lonely in the sky. So, standing lonely in the sky. So she says that the words are muffled now. That means they are muted, they are made quieter, or they are made softer, and they are difficult to hear. So they are muted, and the laughing faces only a blur. And then she says that those laughing faces of my classmates, I can only remember only the laughing, but their faces I'm unable to recollect those faces in a very clear manner or obviously. So she says that the faces they are only a blur, something that cannot be seen or heard clearly. So the years have sped along. So it was somewhere in those kindergarten days. Now I have grown into an adult and my mind is matured, and then I have reached to the state of maturity. So the years have sped along, they have passed away, stopping briefly at beloved halls and moving sadly on. Of course, there are beloved halls in our life in between, and these, the life, as we see that there are pains and pleasures in our life, and it is moving sadly on. My mind has found, she says, an adult peace when I remember those old days. No need to remember that picnic day, she says. Now she has become strong. Now she is no more sensitive. And she says that no need to remember that picnic day when I lay hidden by a hedge. So I was on the hedge. See another picture. So here is a hedge. So when I lay hidden by a hedge, watching the steel white sun, so this is the steel white sun. She was watching the steel white sun in that pane, uh, and the she was standing lonely in the sky. So as the steel white sun is standing lonely in the sky, she was observing. So in the final stanza, now we have seen the final stanza. The final stanza that is here. So, in the final stanza, the poet says that now that she is grown up, the memory of that event has faded away. It is no more, it has faded away. And she says that I no more feel insulted, or I don't feel ashamed, because there is nothing in her childhood to cherish and to desire for. So she wants to nourish and cherish herself, and she is not in that childhood, in that sad or lonely childhood. And now she found adult peace, because she has grown into an adult and she has attained the state of maturity. So, ironically, be saying again and again, no need to remember her helplessness in forgetting. It is quite visible. The memory has not faded away, though she remembers those painful days in her kindergarten, but still she does not forget her childhood memories in the kindergarten. The memories are not faded away, but clear in her mind, as she remembers very well everything of that day. What has happened on that day? That is the picnic day. So, where did they go and what happened? And she still remembers the blue frocked woman, the teacher, how she scolded her, and how she felt insulted and lonely and ashamed. All these she remembers. So there are figures of speech, that is the word image. So we can say they are hyphenated, that is blue frocked woman, which is hyphenated, and steel white sun, which is hyphenated, then sun warmed heads, that is also hyphenated, and then honey colored, that honey colored day we say. All these are the hyphenated word images which are called as figures of speech. And the personification is the passing years are personified as something passing. So, this is the summary we have seen about punishment in kindergarten, which is written by Kamala Das. And so, at the end, we shall discuss that what is the moral of this poem. How can we speak about the moral of this poem or the conclusion of this poem? That is, children are funny things we have to remember, and some children, they are very sensitive, and these children, they are compared to flowers. So the flowers are very, very delicate. So in the same way, children are also like that, like touch me not mimosa pudica, we say. So as soon as we touch the leaves of the mimosa pudica, what happens immediately? They will be folding. So in the same way, we have to, as teachers, we have to recognize in the classroom that there are some children who are very sensitive at heart. So deal them with a very delicate manner, as they are tender hearted, especially the kindergarten teachers. They ought to have a lot of patience to deal them. So, very sly, in a very sly way, we have to deal them. And we should be very crafty in order to deal with such hearts. So, as we, as with our words, they may have the impressions on their hearts forever. So here Kamala Das, after growing to an adult, or after reaching the state of maturity, at that time too, she still remembers as what happened in the kindergarten days. So the impressions are long, they are lasting very long. So that is why it is better to deal with the children in a very delicate manner. So that is what we learn. So as teachers ought to have a lot of patience, because children will be remembering these teachers throughout their lifetime. So this is the summary or the meaning of the poem, that is Punishment in Kindergarten, which is written by Kamala Das. Thank you.